Oh,
Good.
Good. Yeah, got it.
The recording didn't need all the chit chat, so. Good. So how are things in your God's world?
Yeah, it's moving. I mean, I sometimes I find the pool ball's a little challenging. I want to just go with the flow, you know.
If the flow goes through, that's fine.
Then it goes through, right? But I think it's also been helpful in identifying blockages.
Yes.
I have a tendency to have blockage between my elbow and my wrist on both arms, actually. Sometimes it's stronger. And just kind of like right about here. Sometimes I just wake up with that in the morning, just kind of feel that in the morning. Yeah, so that has been helpful.
Good.
To kind of do that. But I do feel like I'm getting to the fingers and back and really feeling the yin yang aspects of it. So
good. Okay. Hey, Bill.
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 That's ambiguous.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't actually look a lot at the lesson. I read the handout, but didn't look at the lesson until this morning. But I've found, going back to the roundness that we did several weeks ago, emphasizing that and trying to feel the yin and yang, like you said, on the inside and outside parts is I'm relating to that more. The flow and energy, I feel it more in my extremities and not in the core so much, not moving, not flowing in and out of the core as much.
You say core, do you mean spine?
I mean spine, I mean everything in my torso.
Okay. Yeah, that we'll get to that as we go along.
But with the roundness, my favorite place, even before getting to God's, was to think about what the heck my scapula are doing.
Yes.
So, and that helps a lot with the roundness also.
Good. It does, because you can't have that really hemispherical movement unless you move everything from the spine to the fingertips. And obviously that includes the scapula. So good.
Yeah, I was a little more erratic with my practice, but the last 2 days I've had good sessions. So
good. Mr. Daigle?
Well, much like Joanne, I think I tend to go with the flow, and if I don't feel the flow at some point, then I revert to the pool balls to get in touch with it again. I will say that going through the 6 movements, number 3 gives me the most difficulty in feeling anything going on. For whatever reason, I'm not sure.
At this stage, certainly it is the most difficult movement, and actually I would say that it probably is the movement that has given me the most difficulty.
Yeah.
Over over time. But it gets better. But you got to work through a lot of things with that, and we have a lot to work with.
Yeah, there seems to be, it doesn't make much logical sense, but it feels like there are more moving parts going on, and that I lose track of the central focus of the whole thing.
Yeah, oh, I think that's a valid comment. I mean, I don't think I have a.
Well, no, I was just reporting.
Yeah. Not looking for magical answers.
I'm not too full of magic today. So good. Well, we're actually going to continue with this, but go a little more deeply into it before we finish today, hopefully. I'm going to start first, actually, just with a short discussion about really what is an intermediate student in Qigong, Tai Chi, or meditation in the groups we're working with. Because those terms tend to be thrown around rather loosely. And very often, if you would take the classic perspective, then nearly everybody who would consider themselves to be an advanced student would at very best be an intermediate one. But then again, a lot of people like to think they're advanced students and they've only done one workshop for a weekend. So it's a tricky thing, but I'll try and make some kind of sense out of this. What is an intermediate student of Qigong, Tai Chi, or meditation? Of course, each of these has slightly different benchmarks. One thing that is very helpful to know is that classically in China, it is said that it takes about 10 years of really hard, concentrated work to really get anywhere and to truly learn any form of Qigong or Tai Chi, or for that matter, meditation. When you hear all these stories about yogis who are up in the caves, you've got to realize that most of those people have been practicing and doing this stuff for 20, 30, 40 years. They haven't just been doing it for a month. So again, this gets tricky. So likewise, from the classical perspective of God's playing in the clouds, when someone has learned and, more importantly, can implement with their body and mind and can do all the 7 movements of God's with no problem, reasonably smoothly, without any big glitches, they're beginners. As an intermediate, they can also do the internal work that's in Taoist longevity breathing, the meridian lines, the etheric body stuff of dragon and tiger, opening the energy gates of your body, bend the bow and shoot the arrow, and spiraling energy body. So until you really have all those things together, you will still be a beginner. So we're all beginners. When refocusing on bending and stretching the arms, we're going to be doing it with intent only. Bending and stretching the arms and the upper torso in movement 1, but only with intent. The reason I'm saying only with intent is that your mind going through your body is not the same thing as actually activating the tissues in your body that are going to cause the strongest flow of qi in your body. We're also going to look at the yin and yang meridians in movement 1 with intent only. So if you look at doing God's playing in the clouds, you're going to start off, of course, with the physical movements. And your question is going to be essentially, are your alignments correct? Or are you doing something so that you're not dissipating a blockage of qi in your body? Are your alignments connected in a way that is going to work the physical tissues inside your body? And then the next thing is about moving qi. There are two fundamental principles about this that exist in Qigong. One is just that you have the intent for your qi to move a certain way. Some people like to do it by having specific visualizations or not, but the fact is that that's just intent. And then you have when you directly move the qi of the body, and usually that requires that you activate the body parts inside you through which the qi is going to move. For example, your fascia and your yin and yang meridians. But that means something is happening physically. Or you have arrived at the stage for your mind to move your qi unambiguously, not having the idea that your mind is getting qi to move through your system, but something is completely felt sensation. There is no way of saying it's not happening. And this usually, normally, begins with a process of working the tissues of the body. Now, previously, we've gone through getting your mind to penetrate your body and then using your mind's intent to move through your body. Now, when you do that, you may or may not feel qi, but you can feel the way your mind intersects with your body. So this is pretty much where we're going to start. And that is with your intention. Now, when you can really do this thing of putting your mind inside your body and moving your intent to your fingertips, you should get a concrete feeling of something moving through your arm. Likewise, if you bring it back, you should get a concrete feeling. And then if you make your mind a little bit lighter, you have a much better chance of actually feeling the qi that intent of your mind being inside your body is activating. So the way in which you'll know if you're moving qi is that at some point in doing all these motions with just your mind alone, you can get the qi to go from your shoulder to your fingertips and come right back. And it'll be concrete. It won't be ambiguous. It'll be concrete. And it isn't going to matter how much your intent is going through the body, because your intent is like the Kickstarter to get the qi itself flowing through. That's when it's really happening. That's the big issue. And that's when your intent, when you're into directly moving qi. So this is indirect. It's not moving the qi itself. It's moving your intention for the qi to move through your body. And this is principally what all visualizations do. In many methods, they do all sorts of stuff in the beginning with visualizing and doing other things. And that's essentially just to sharpen your intent. But when they get to the real stuff, you directly move the qi through your body. It is no different in Taoism, it's no different in Buddhism, and it's no different in classic Hatha Yoga. So we'll go with this. So we're going to do a lot of different exercises today. So for the first one, I'd like you to stand. And I want you to take a moment to just feel your basic alignments and breathing. And then just bring your arms up parallel to each other, so straight out about shoulder height. Your elbows are bent at about 70%. You're going to just leave your elbow tips fixed, facing perpendicular to the floor. And this is so you can easily bend and straighten your arms 70% with minimal difficulty. Now, with your elbows facing the ground, it shouldn't be too difficult to do this. Now, I want you to pay attention to the feeling in the crook of your elbow. Just feel what you feel there. Let your mind become very quiet and relaxed, so you can feel that crook of your elbow better. Now we have two things that we're looking for. We want to get our chi to our fingertips, but you're starting from the shoulder, and it has to go through your elbow because, of course, the elbow is in the middle. So bend your arms, and then as you straighten, focus on the crook of your elbow. You're going to bend and straighten both arms. Now, as you feel the crook of your elbow, feel your mind going through the crook of your elbow and into your hand. And as you bend it, feel it come back and go through the crook of your elbow to your shoulder. Just feel that much of the movement for a moment. Keep bending and extending. Try to keep your arms parallel, or at least the forearms parallel. Now the next part, the next time you extend forward, feel your intent going through the center of your elbow joint and then going out to your fingertips. And then bring your intent from your fingertips through your elbow and back to your shoulder. And do this with your intent. Okay, so pause for a moment. Actually, you could sit down for a moment. I'll give you a little break before we go on. So did you have any sense of your intent moving through?
Yeah, I did.
Good.
I did.
Yes, yes. I would say that sensations around the elbow seem to be on the outside, as opposed to straight through the middle or the inside. I've no trouble with the forearm and the fingers feeling sensations, and probably up the side back of the tricep,
Mm-hmm.
rather than inside. So
So that's a good start.
Yeah, that's interesting. I felt like my intent was reasonably good, but I had a lot of tightness in my shoulders that I had to keep working on getting rid of.
Mm-hmm.
And but my sensation, I had a lot of sensation, palpable sensation in my hands and my fingertips on the inside and through the arm, and sort of the opposite of what you just said, Bill, more on the inside feeling, but I couldn't get past the elbow. I wasn't feeling a physical sensation, even though I felt like the mind intent was there past the elbow.
Uh-huh.
But it was different going out and coming in. I was also thinking about, the extending and opening joints as we're doing that. Probably everybody was, but
Good. So, that's kind of interesting because that points out how working with and we'll work on this again in a moment, but how working with the pool ball method is important because you need to open up that shoulder to elbow pathway so that it all can flow freely. You've obviously got clarity down in the forearm and in the hand, but that elbow to shoulder area is an area that is often a problem for us to get started.
I think just the concept of opening the shoulder is elusive, where the concept of opening the wrist or the elbow is, for me, fairly straightforward.
Yeah. And one of the things to remember about the shoulder is that you have to be sure that you're opening and closing the armpit, but you also have to open and close the acromioclavicular joint, which is when you put your finger on the top of your shoulder, you feel a little notch. That joint has to move, and it's very, very small, but it's got to open and close or the energy can't get through. So it's not only just talking about shoulder as a single lump. It has the shoulder's nest, it has the center of the shoulder joint, and it has the acromioclavicular joint physically. So all of that has to work. And making sure that you keep the shoulder's nest soft and sinking is really important to opening that area, because we kind of often have a tendency for that to be tight, push out, and it needs to actually soften and sink And that's part of what really opens the shoulder. So nothing to think about.
I think that one of the things that is helpful, and I think you're both doing it to some degree, is physically touching those spaces. Kind of
Yes.
creating, in class, we would do that to ourselves or to each other, right? And I
Right.
think to kind of do that with our hands so that we feel that I find that I was doing that a number of times the last couple of weeks to just kind of get it that sunk in as to where we are, where we should be, where our intent should be going. Yeah.
Absolutely. That is kind of the drawback to not being in person, because I can't put my hands on you.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I can't feel your energy moving.
Right.
I could sometimes be aware of it on Zoom, but it's difficult.
Well, I'm not clear on this notch that you're talking about. I get one notch, which is right at the top of, I guess there's a ball and joint thing. Is it out at the end here, or is it more?
Well, can you see my shoulder?
Yeah.
It's got this. Here's the point of my shoulder. If I go in towards the spine, on me it's about an inch. There's a fairly deep notch.
Is that where your collarbone starts?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's pretty clear. Yeah.
Actually, a little different on both of my sides. I've noticed that till now.
It can be, yeah.
Just a little deeper here than here. Yeah.
Yep. Also, I broke my collarbone once, but never had it set. And so my collarbone is uneven in place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I broke both mine falling out of an apple tree when I was a kid.
Uh-oh.
Really? Man, you really smacked hard.
Yeah.
So good. Well, that was good. It's a good start. We're going to do a little bit more here, though. So when you're really doing this, we're going to be getting the fascia and the ligaments of your arm are going to be moving, and then the blood flow is going to increase in both directions as you're moving it. And this is because your blood and your chi are going to travel together. They are connected together. So we're going to do kind of a longer practice here. And if you feel a need to sit down, that's okay. I think it's a little better done standing, but if you feel at any point you need to take a break, please do. If you were all 20, I'd say stand up and don't you dare sit down. But
It's been a while since any of us have seen 20.
There's some
no,
multiple of 20.
too many multiples of 20.
Too many multiples. It's been a while since my children have seen 20.
Right. Oh God. Did you have to remind me of that?
40. I'm not over 40.
So standing if you can, with your feet parallel. And breathe. Do as much of the longevity breathing as you can without great effort. Be aware of your alignments. And we're going to just work with one arm at a time now. So I'd like you to put just one arm, doesn't really matter which one you start with, we'll do both before we're through. And just as it was before, just out here with the elbow down. And I want you to have it extended. So that means 70% extended, not more than that. And as you connect with that, I want you to make sure that you have your mind inside your body. And just feel that. And now pay attention to the feeling in the crook of your elbow. Just let your mind be very relaxed and quiet, so you just can feel the crook of your elbow. We have two things that we're going to be looking for. We want to get out to the fingertips, but if you're starting from the shoulder, it has to go through your elbow because it's in the middle. So now just feel the crook of your elbow. And now make your mind move inside your body all the way to the crook of your elbow. Then from your elbow, come back to your shoulder. And just make your mind go forward and back from the shoulder to the crook of your elbow. But don't move the arm. You're simply using the mind. Now do the same thing, but have your mind move from the shoulder to the middle of your elbow joint. So that's different from the crook of your elbow on the surface. You want to feel the middle of your elbow joint and go back and forth from that. And then see if you can get your mind to go all the way from your shoulder through the crook of your elbow and the center of your joint to your fingertips and back. And now switch arms. And start with just feeling your mind in the crook of your elbow. The two sides may not be the same. Then make your mind move inside your body all the way from the shoulder to the crook of your elbow, and then from your elbow back to your shoulder. Now doing the same thing, have your mind move from the shoulder to the middle of your elbow joint and back. So feeling the difference between the middle of the joint and the crook of your elbow. And then see if you can get your mind to go all the way from your shoulder through the crook of your elbow and the center of your joint to your fingertips. Okay, so pause for a moment. Now, if your intent is moving through your body, you should be getting some kind of sensation. Forget about if it is a sensation of chi. Just your mind going through your body is going to be activating a lot of nerves, and that's going to get the sensation, to generate the sensation. So go back to the first arm. And now you go from your spine and see if you could get your mind inside your arm, inside of it. And then see if you can get your mind to go from your spine through your elbow joint, and then bring it back to your spine. And eventually you would want to practice this until it becomes normal. The next step here is now from the spine, go through the center of the elbow joint and feel the crook of your elbow as you go all the way to your fingertips. And then all the way from your fingertips back through both the crook of your elbow and your elbow joint, through your shoulder to your spine. Now go back to your first arm. And get your mind inside your arm.
That is our first arm.
Hmm?
This is our first arm, right? We're still on our first arm.
No, we just switched arms.
We did, okay.
Well, we did.
None of us did.
I should have been watching you.
I was.
Everybody switch arms from what you were
Switch
doing.
arms. This is our second arm, okay.
Second arm. And see if you could get your mind to go from your spine through your elbow joint. And bring it back to your spine. Now go from the spine through the center of the elbow joint and feel the crook of your elbow as you go all the way to your fingertips. And then back to your spine. And now go back to the other arm. So switch arms. But this time bend your elbow 70%. And now starting from this position, you're going to do the same thing as you straighten your arm. You're going to move your mind from the spine through the shoulder, through the elbow joint, and through the crook of the elbow to the fingertips as you straighten the arm. And then when you're coming back, bending the arm, your mind is coming back from the fingertips through the elbow joint, the crook of the elbow, through the shoulder to the spine. So bending and straightening as you do this. And now switch arms. Again, move your mind from the spine, through the shoulder, through the elbow joint, and through the crook of the elbow to the fingertips, and back. Now, as you extend forward, feel your intent going through each joint and then going out to your fingertips. Then bring your intent in from your fingertips through the center of your elbow joint, back to your shoulder and your spine. Just bending and straightening 70%. And switch arms again. And as you extend forward, feel your intent going through each joint, then going out to your fingertips and back. Keep in mind that this would be exactly the same regardless of what direction your arm was bending in. It wouldn't matter what the direction of the movement was. So relax. You can sit down. So could you feel a difference between your mind and your intent going through?
Mhm.
Good,
Yeah, definitely.
great.
Yeah,
For me, it really, I feel like I got the beginning of it really starting happening when we got the spine involved.
Mm,
I think
Mhm.
there was a huge difference, both in terms of opening and closing everything and feeling both intent and some energy moving through. So
Good.
you know, for me, a couple of things. One was when we focused on the interior, the inside of the elbow, as opposed to the crook. That seemed to engage my upper arm a lot more than it had before.
Interesting.
Good.
The other thing was just to, I'm always looking for ways to measure against something. There's you know, I don't have any experience of what, you know, whether I'm doing it right or wrong, but I've had very couple of weeks of bad rotator cuff stuff going on.
Mm.
I didn't have an ounce of pain this morning or discomfort doing all of that. So I have to assume that I was doing something right.
I think so.
I had an interesting pain thing too. I usually I'm a side sleeper. I'm usually sleeping on my left side.
Mhm.
And when we started, I had some kind of a kink back in on my shoulder in the back part of it. And when we got the spine and switched back to the first arm or the second arm, whichever one it was, and got back to the left arm, that kink had totally disappeared, and
Wow.
obviously that lets everything flow through. So,
Cool.
but yeah,
Good.
yeah, but it's interesting you say that, Bill.
Yeah.
Good. Well, and those are really good indications that you are making the connections and getting the energy.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's a very positive response. So obviously we're trying to think in terms of starting with the pool ball method and working step by step, but wanting eventually to make the movement be like the water hose, getting the flow to be continuous all the way down and then pulling it back smoothly. And then having your mind just keep the water going and help push it all the way out, and then just make sure you pull it all the way back. And this is, of course, eventually the better way to do it. But in the beginning, it's really helpful to use the pool ball method to make sure you're making good connections all the way through. So
Yeah, I found this time it was easier to use the pool ball, or it was helpful. So
yeah,
while I had said at the beginning of class that I felt like sometimes the kind of flow blew that away, I found it very helpful and easier to do in this exercise. Yeah.
you
I
know,
think because it was really directed, right? It was a guided.
yeah, absolutely. I know, you know, my mind, when I think back, I wanted to think that I could do the water hose method and I didn't need to do the pool ball method.
Oh.
Well, I
understand
discovered
that.
that wasn't the case.
Right. Yeah, no, that's not, I don't feel like I just feel like it kind of, the flow kind of blows it away, but I found that very helpful just now. So, yeah.
Good. Well, that's
Good.
what we're trying to do, to get this flow to move and to feel it all the way through every part. So we will we'll continue next week.
We will continue next week.
More and more.
Yep.
We'll begin to apply it next week to the
Yeah.
students.
Okay.
So practice some of this week.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever of these work best for you.
Yeah.
Good. Any last minute thoughts or questions?
Good luck on the water situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
May
you.
may the flow be with you.
Indeed.
That's right.
Ah, well.
Oh,
Well,
very good.
have a good week. And
Yeah, I'll hang on
And
here,
with-
David.
in case you didn't notice, I did send an additional note that
Yeah.
this is the beginning of another session today.
Yep. Mine's in the mail, so.
Checks in the mail, as we say.
Okay. Thank you. See you next week.
Bye-bye,
Okay,
David.
bye.
Bye.
Bills. So speaking of flow.
Speaking of flow.
Yeah, I'm not trying to do it now. I did stress out my right knee standing for as long as I did, but I was really bound and determined. I was so into doing the exercise. I didn't want to sit down, but then I had to. But I did, in terms of the flow, I know or I said last week, I'd try to really get through the whole thing and be able to do it. And I didn't, but what I did do was and I know the second paragraph is kind of physically the hardest for me right now. The first and the last are easier. But yeah, no jebu, etc. Yeah, I mean, just taking these lessons from gods and putting them in to the flow, I think is very helpful. So I just feel it more. So yes, I had a little pool ball action going in the first paragraph.
Excellent.
Just slowly.
Well, yeah, and I think recognizing the need to slow it down in order to feel it. Because
You can't. That's right. Really had to slow it down. That's right.
and then later on you can go more quickly.
Well, right. And I mean, we know, obviously I've been, practicing long enough to understand that.
Yeah.
And I think if I don't slow it down, I find myself stopping and starting. Which I don't
Yeah,
do.
that's right.
And so just going, yeah, and I'm not the person to go slow. Like, normally like, let's get this done. Which is why this practice is so good for me.
Slow us down a little.
It slows down, and it's the importance of understanding that there are times and places to slow down. Yeah.
Good.
So I don't think I have any other insights there. I mean, it just, I do want to, start moving into the second paragraph, again, slowly, but we'll see kind of where the physical challenges are there, but do what I can. So
I hope your physical challenges improve.
well, I think it's time to go back to the cardiovascular doctor. I think that the legs are, clearly the veins aren't getting any better, and I don't think the stockings, well, I didn't do any stockings over the summer, but I think that's a piece of what needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
So I think that's
I wear them all the time.
Yeah, do you? Yeah. And have you had varicose vein surgery?
No.
I kind of feel like that. I don't know. Both my sisters have, and my mother did. So I don't know. I know. It's like
Kind of sounds genetic, doesn't
kind
it?
of thing, a genetic thing going on here, my family.
Yeah.
So I will. That's kind of the next thing. I also sat for 2.5 hours at a Connecticut Suns basketball game last night, sitting in standing. So that's another interesting challenge. It's a great game, but up on the knees. Anyway.
Well, practice when you can.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. And then we'll get back to, see what I can do this week I don't have children staying overnight or the like. So,
Well, we have to fit it in with our with our life.
With our lives, I know. Yeah, there's one thing you said at the beginning of class that I was thinking about, you know, in terms of, well, certainly the monks in the cave aren't worried about the kids staying overnight, probably.
No.
But I think particularly from my knowledge or connection to India and the studying of nonviolence, and of that real understanding of the length of time that it takes to really absorb properly.
Yes.
But the discipline it takes, that doesn't mean, oh yeah, it's not a matter of I have a lot of time. It's that it takes a lot of time. And there's really a difference there. If we don't practice, then we're not able to practice it. So
Right.
I think that's a important lesson, a universal lesson in this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a hard lesson for us in the West, I think.
Say that again.
I said, I think it's a hard lesson for us in the West.
I think it is. And I think that's where I draw on my practicing of and studying of nonviolence, you know, and also I think, yes, well, in some cases also, as we were talking about fasting kind of within a Gandhian sense of fasting, a friend who's also been to India with me for various War Resisters International things says, well, we have to remember that the understanding of many of the Gandhians in terms of fasting until the death is that, well, they'll have their next life to keep working on this, right? So as long as you have that understanding, you have a different idea of some of the senses of length of time. How many lifetimes does it take to really play the sitar perfectly, you know?
Right. Can you count that high?
Can you count that high? Right. So anyway, but
Good point.
good point. But that doesn't mean I'll wait another few years. I'll work on it this week.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you,
Good luck
Joe.
with your water. All right. Thank you.
Take care.